This is Helping of Happiness, episode number 170. Today we have on holistic plant-based nutritionist Ali Essig, the founder of PlantWise, and she's going to be teaching us the whats, the whys, and the hows of plant-based eating. Hi, I'm Hilary Hess, and you're listening to Helping of Happiness. I am a crazy mom of 7 kids, and at Helping of Happiness, we love to help build up families by providing delicious family recipes, exciting travel guides, and home and family hacks to make your life more manageable and more fun. There are a lot of things I am still learning and I'm trying to figure out, and that is why we have this podcast, to have our friends come on here and teach us and inspire us to be better and grow closer to Jesus Christ. So I want to give you a little bit of background about why this topic that we're talking about has been so important and impactful to me today. So after having my 7th baby, which was almost 6 years ago, I just could not get a handle on my health. So my blood pressure was crazy, my weight wasn't coming off, my energy was in the tank, and my other numbers weren't looking so great. But I just kind of said, it's because I'm busy with this baby. I'll get to it later. I'm busy creating Helping of Happiness. COVID hit. My daughter went to college. I sent her on a mission. She came home, sent my son on a mission. Kids are leaving the nest. It was all very emotional. And I just felt like I was just masking my personal health. I just wasn't putting it first because I just kept getting sucked into everything else that was happening around me, right? I just kept thinking I'll get to it. And I just wasn't. So in the midst of all of this, and this has been a journey for years, right? My aunt has been amazing. She eats this plant-based diet and she's been doing it for a long, long time. And every time I talked to her about it, I just loved hearing what she was doing. And I was so intrigued and I just felt these nudges that I should do something like that. But I just felt like this is impossible. I could never do something like this. I just could never really commit. She's just amazing and I just can't even imagine doing something like that. So over a year ago, it's been about a year, just a little over a year, I decided, okay, I really need to start trying something, but I just can't give this my full focus. And so some friends and I started doing what we call Tackle It Tuesdays. And so every Tuesday, we would do our best to accomplish our goals. We're like, okay, we cannot be perfect all the time, but on Tuesdays, we can do a really good job and really focus on our goals on Tuesdays, and we would check in with each other. And it was really, really great. And it really did help. I mean, it would kind of ebb and flow with sickness and travel, but it did help on some of my numbers of, health-wise, but it just wasn't enough doing it one day a week. And a few months ago, I went and got my yearly blood draw and my numbers still weren't good, The nudges were back and full force, and I was just feeling really strong that I needed to do something. And I just didn't know what. I felt like I was looking into everything. I was looking into macros. Maybe I just needed to lose some weight. I was looking into all different kinds of things. And that's when I ran into Ali's class, Ali Essig, our wonderful guest that we're going to have on today. She had a class on the Thriving Mother Summit, and she talked about this challenge about eating 30 different plants per week. And this meant fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And that felt really fun to me because I am a foodie. I love all foods. It's not like I'm just sitting around eating cookies all day. I just love lots of different kinds of foods. And so I started doing that and I felt so great. And it was so fun to look at it in abundance mindset that I decided, you know what? I think I'm just going to try to jump all the way into plant-based eating. And it's been over 2 months and I'm still going and I actually really love it and I feel so much better. Don't feel nearly as bloated. I feel like I have more energy. Of course, I still need an afternoon nap sometimes and things like that, but I just have learned so many things. And don't get me wrong, this has not been sunshine and roses. Some days are super, super hard and I feel like I can't think of what to eat or feel that there aren't good options when I'm out to eat. But I'm figuring it out and I am really loving it. And I'd say I'm probably 85% plant-based. Sometimes I have some seafood, every so often, and a little bit of milk and a little bit of eggs. But I feel like I have willpower again, and I feel like I'm strong, and I feel like I'm in charge of my food choices instead of my food choices just tempting me and being in charge of me. And if I lose my way, or I just aren't doing quite as good of a job, then I just cinch up and I work harder again. So this has been a little tricky for me though as well, because my family is not doing this along with me. So I still have a lot of things in the house that are not the types of things that I'm eating right now. And I'm still cooking dinner for my family that looks like the way that I was eating before. But the beautiful thing is that I've been able to figure out how to make a lot of the meals that I was eating before, but just maybe put the chicken on the side or leave off the dairy and put the dairy, and but my kids and my husband can put the dairy on if they want. And so I got together 34 of those recipes that I've been using, and I actually got it together for you guys in a doc all together. And it's I have a link for it in the show notes. So 34 plant-based recipes, and I tell on there what what things you could leave out, like meat on the side or swapping a milk for a plant milk or something like that. So go check that out. So anyway, I'm really getting close to telling you the rest of this, and then we'll get to Ali. But so Thanksgiving this year was really tricky for me because I love Thanksgiving. I love turkey. I love gravy, and I love all of those things. But I was really trying to make it a little bit more plant-based, and for a lot of things I really did. But I did let myself indulge in a little bit of cheesecake and a little bit of pie. And I realized that I really do not feel good when I have things with heavy cream, butter, or sugar. It's not good for my body. And I'm not saying this is for everybody. This is for me. Just like gluten or dairy might not be good for some people. For me, this plant-based eating really is a lot better for me. And so having that experience of actually dabbling in that again after being away from it for a long time was really good for me, because now I know what I want, and I know that doesn't make me feel good. So I know I'm always going to be managing this, but it's feeling more and more normal for me to eat plant-based. And the weight is slowly peeling off, but I'm really more worried about my inside numbers than I am my outside numbers, but it is good to see the outside numbers just for a little gauge. And I'm just keep reminding myself that this is a slow process, but food is my medicine, and I think it's just so amazing that it can heal the body and what our bodies are capable of when we're fueling it properly. So I am not a doctor or a dietitian, but I just wanted to share this amazing experience that I've been having in case it is something that maybe you've been searching for too. So we're going to go ahead and hear from Ali in just a second. Stay tuned after the interview with Ali, because we have a little spoonful of spirit segment with Lindy Schock. And I'm actually really excited about how this worked out, because we're discussing Daniel in the Bible, which is perfect because been studying his story a lot about when he didn't eat the king's meat. It kind of goes along with all this plant-based eating thing that I've been trying, and this whole lifestyle change. And so it's kind of fun to pair that with this episode. So more on that after our chat with Ali. And so let's hear Ali Essig, holistic plant-based nutritionist and the founder of PlantWise. Well, I am really happy to have Ali on our podcast today. I found Ali from the Thriving Mother Summit, and I've been dabbling in plant-based for like the past year, and now I'm committed. So I'm so excited to share so many of the things that I've been learning from her. But before we go into plant-based eating, Ali, do you mind telling us a little bit about you and about your family?
Yeah. So I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I used to work on Capitol Hill, actually, for congressman for years. And then afterwards, I worked on campaigns. Once I started having kids, it was a little more flexible to do campaign work. But right now I have 6 kids, so all between the ages of 11 and 3. And we have twins at the end. So I'm a twin mom, which makes it really fun. But my husband's an attorney. We've lived in D.C. We've raised our family here, and we love it.
Love that. Oh, that is so fun. Man, DC with 6 kids, I'm sure you get looks, because I have 7 kids and I get it all the time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's fun. It's fun though. It's fun to be different. The answer is always like, yeah, it's a party. But I think the cool thing was when someone said that to my daughter, that like, wow, you have that many siblings. And her answer was, yeah, it's a party. I'm like, oh,
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. That's the best. No, it is a party. I love it. I love having a house full of kids. I just feel lucky we can have all of them. So I'm glad you get to have that too. It's so fun.
that's
So
awesome.
cool. Okay. Well, I would love for you to tell your story of how you guys in your family moved to plant-based eating, because it's not usually one of those things that, at least for me, that I just think, oh, let's just jump into this. There's got to usually be a reason.
Right, exactly. And my reason was not a reason that I would wish on anyone else. Back in 2019, very soon after my twin boys were born, they're about 8 months old.
Oh
I
my
found
gosh.
yeah, I know, right? So we just had all of our 6 kids. We had the twin boys, and I found myself rushing to the ER. My neighbor had actually knocked on my door, and I was in the shower. So my front door was open. And no one answered. So she comes inside, she knocks on the shower door, and I'm just startled, like, what in the world is going on? And she just said, Ali, your husband called me. He couldn't get a hold of you. He's on his way to the ER. And so you need to get there. I'll watch your kids. So I hurried, got out of the shower. I mean, my mind's just like flooded. I have no idea. I missed a ton of texts from his coworkers saying, Ali, something's wrong with your husband. And I'm just terrified. Right. And so I hurry and get to the ER as fast as I can. And I open the door, and I'll never forget the moment where I saw my husband slumped over in a wheelchair, looking like he had aged 50 years, like automatically. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I knew in the moment right then that it was like, it looks like he's having a stroke. And while my heart knew, it took lots of tests and lots of, time in the ER to try to figure out what was going on, and MRIs and scans. And then they finally came to the conclusion that yes, it was true. He had a stroke, and it was affecting his vision. So it wasn't just something that happened and then, everything went back to normal. He ended up having double vision. And so, which made it difficult to drive. It made it difficult to, to work, to do just a lot of the things. And so we were in the hospital for days, and they ran multiple tests. I mean, the first line of attack is, okay, why did this happen? Does he have a hole in his heart? Does he have a heart arrhythmia? Does he have a genetic family history of this? And everything came back negative. There was no explanation why. At the time, I wish it was like, oh, it's just a hole in his heart. Like, everything will be fine. We'll fix that. It'll be okay. But there was no reason. And so the only direction they gave us in the hospital was a piece of paper that said, from now on, you have to follow a heart healthy diet. And that means to avoid alcohol, which we already are not drinkers. So that was easy. And then to eat more fiber, to reduce your consumption of trans fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. And so that was really confusing to me at the time. I was like, what does this mean? I don't even know, and we even came home from the hospital. My husband was making himself a peanut butter sandwich and looked at the peanut butter jar and was like, well, there's saturated fat in this. Should I eat this? Like, should I not? Like, just, it was really confusing, and really understanding where fiber comes from. Like, what is fiber? All of that. So that's kind of where I just started doing the research. And as I started doing more research, everything started leading me towards eating more plant-based.
I can't imagine having that big of a shock and then knowing you have to change the way you eat, because at least for us, that's such a thing of comfort and normalcy in our life. That would be really hard. But then, like you say, the food was medicine to him, right? So tell us about what happened when she started eating that way.
Right. Well, and while it was overwhelming for me, so my dad actually ended up passing away from his one and only heart attack when he was 55 years old.
Oh,
and so it was just, a few years prior to my husband's stroke. So as I'm in the hospital, I'm calling my mom and, I'm like, what did you do when this all happened? And just feeling lucky that he had survived it, that it wasn't worse. And so for me, I'm like, I prayed that my dad would have gotten a second chance, that he would have had the opportunity to change his diet, and he never got that opportunity. But because we have this opportunity, like, I was willing to do everything. It was like that mother bear inside of me just kicked in and was like, no, we are keeping you alive for as long as possible. We are changing our diet to improve your vision. Because that was another thing. It's like, what can you do? What's in my power? There's not a lot in my power, but that is something that I can do. And so that was, and I researching, okay, well, what's going to help your vision, and eating, what's going to keep those the arteries in your brain open so that he, could heal. And it was all about eating more plant foods, eating more foods that contain those antioxidants. And that's what's going to heal, and help you slowly. I mean, food is medicine, but it's not directly medicine, right? Like it's a very long, slow path.
Right. It's not like taking an ibuprofen when you have a fever and you're going to feel a little better in 20 minutes, right? No, it is. And I completely understand that. And having patience with it, I think is, you don't really know if this is working for a while.
But it did work. That was the thing. I mean, after about 5 months of eating this way, that was the amazing thing, was to see his cholesterol numbers came down, his triglycerides came down, his vision did actually come back after about 5 months, and all of his health numbers did improve. And that was without calorie counting, without like exercise, without this, like, we, in the past, whenever we'd have a baby, we both would gain the baby weight and then we'd both lose it together. And we would do the calorie counting, we would do the macro, eating, we did all of it. Right. And it worked. Like we were able to lose the weight, but it was more of a yo-yo, and it felt like it was hard work and it was sacrifice, and we were just, pushing through it. But eating plant-based was like, if you're hungry, eat a banana. If you're, like, it didn't feel as difficult. Once we got all the other options out of our house, it didn't feel hard. Right. It just,
because you're not hangry all the time. Right.
Right.
That's half the problem when you're restricting your calories, is you're just like, I don't know. I'm not very nice to be around when I'm not getting enough to eat. I love that about the plant-based.
Right. Right. Exactly. And it's interesting too, because as I really was searching, I'm like, okay, number one, they said to avoid trans fat. So I did the research, like, where is trans fat? And a lot of that is just in fried foods. A lot of trans fat is naturally found in animal products, but also in like baked goods. So you store-bought baked goods, or, microwave popcorn, or, like the frozen dough, things like that, which I wasn't eating much of anyway. But the second thing to avoid was saturated fat. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's that in? And the number one source of saturated fat in the American diet is cheese. And we were big cheese eaters. Like, we loved it. I mean, who isn't, right? Like, we loved it. And
I know that's a hard one. Cheese just makes everything taste better, right?
Right. And it's funny because we were driving, actually, my husband and I, as I'm doing all this research, and we're listening to this book on tape. And he says, I could go without meat. Like, I could do that, but I could never go without cheese. And then we listened to the section on cheese and dairy and how that influences, your body. And he was like, okay, I guess we have to do it. But
I guess I'm off cheese.
Right. But if he can do it, like my cheese loving husband, then everyone can do it. Like it's amazing how many more tastes and flavors that you find in your foods when you're not masking it with cheese.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree completely. There's so many other things that you can use. I think that's really brave, though, to just jump right in and just try it, because that's not always the most conventional way to go about things. It's here, pop this pill and do this. And so I think that's so awesome. And that you got on board too, I think is really cool, because a lot of people would be like, okay, go eat healthy. That's great. But I'm sure that empowered him to do better when you're going along with it and not have all of your extra sugary or fatty or whatever it was in your house, to have him just be able to eat that. I'm sure that's probably one reason you did it. But
oh, right. No, for sure. I think there's power in community, right? There's power in like having that, not being alone. And there's also just power of having the opportunity to take the options out of our house. Like I never threw anything out. Like when our cheese ran out, I just didn't buy it. When our meat ran out, I did somewhat slowly get into it. I did give away a bunch of meat actually, but other than that, like it took a little bit of time, when the kids wanted chicken nuggets while I still had them, I gave it to them. But over time, I just was like, oh, I forgot to grab more at the store. Oh, I'll have to get that next time. Oh, it wasn't like so dramatic for my kids. It was just kind of a slow ease into it, but it was more dramatic where we started eating a lot more like salads. I like first weekend, I'm like, okay, we're just going to food prep salads. And that's kind of how it started, where we just had a big, yummy, delicious salad always on hand. I don't do that now. Like you kind of find your, you try things and you find your rhythm. And now I'm in a really good rhythm, but you just kind of have to keep trying. I feel like success is just not giving up, right? It's just those who keep going, even when they find those roadblocks, right? It's not going to be perfect every time.
I had a lot of veggies and hummus when my first couple of weeks of trying this, because it was, you get frozen. Okay, what can I eat? I'm really hungry. Well, I can go eat veggies and hummus till I figure it out. That was like and I love it, so it's fine. And I tried all different flavors of hummus, and it was great to see what I like. But totally, that was my go-to, was veggies and hummus. So, oh, I love that. Okay, so let's just maybe define plant-based eating, like, super straight out for people that maybe are, because I feel like we've talked about it, but kind of danced around it a little bit. So,
so there's lots of different ways of doing it. This is the cool thing about eating plant-based, is you don't have to be very, very strict about it. Like, there's some people who are vegan. Like, if you're vegan, there's absolutely no animal products, right?
Right.
But you could be choosing, instead of animal products, you could be eating donuts, like your Oreo cookies, or, French fries. So that's the problem. It's not necessarily what you take out, but it's what you're putting in. And so when you're eating plant-based, you're minimizing the amount of dairy and meat, or just animal products in general, and you're increasing the amount of plants. Now, plants are fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and legumes. And I like to structure my plate now when I think, okay, well, because that's the hardest thing. It's like, how are you switching from this standard American diet where you have to have a protein, a starch, and a veggie? So what does my plate look like? And that's what a lot of people question. And so right now it's like, I equally try to have a plate of vegetables, of fruits, of like a starch, whether it's a whole grain, any type of starch can be full, and then legumes. So those beans are usually like what I really am replacing my protein source with, is mostly with legumes. And that makes it pretty easy, because I can still make the same meals that I was making before. Instead of chicken, I use chickpeas. Instead of ground beef, I'll use lentils, right? I'm just kind of switching that off. And that was the easiest step into it. It didn't feel so overwhelming, because I wasn't trying random recipes online. I was just replacing what I normally would cook. Or even if I would just cook grilled chicken, now I'm just like grilling my veggies with some chickpeas, right? And just seasoning chickpeas, putting them in the air fryer. And, that's my grilled chicken, right? Instead, like that, it's just an easy swap. And so that's kind of for me how it is. But I'm also, what I love about eating plant-based is that I'm not 100%. Like, I am a 90% person. Like, I still like to be able to go to events and try the amazing, delectable dessert or whatever it is that they have. Like, I still want to try it. I still want to have someone else, give me dinner, and I'm not picky and saying, oh, I can't eat that, I'm sorry. Like, I wanted that flexibility in my life. And I've patterned the way we're eating off of the blue zones. And the blue zones are little pockets and areas in the world where people live to be 100 years old and older. So where there's the most centenarians in the world, the people who are living, long in their life, and they're eating about a 90 to 95% plant-based diet. They're eating meat occasionally, but it's in small amounts, right? Their main source of protein is beans. They're eating mostly plants, but with some flexibility. So that's kind of how, as I shifted my way of looking at food from just, I want to lose weight after having babies, to, I want my husband to live a long time, and I want him around. Then I wanted to pattern how I'm eating, not after bodybuilders, but I'm patterning how we're eating after, those who live the longest in the world. And so that's kind of how it's shifted.
No, I love that. That's a huge motivation, is having your husband with you all the time. Right. Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. Okay. And I love that you gradually did it, because that's how at the first week I was trying to go really just cold turkey into it, and I was so overwhelmed, and my gut was so confused. And I'm like, okay, I really need to maybe I just won't have meat right now. But I'm still going to have a little bit of dairy, not like cheese and cream and ice cream and stuff, but a little bit of milk, a little bit of yogurt. And so I still have a little bit of that and a little bit of fish here or there, where I'm like, I think I just need a little more. Or it's easier out when I eat out to sometimes get a fish than to get a vegetarian meal, because there's just not always options eating out. So, or you just feel like you have the house salad everywhere you go. I don't know.
Right. It's getting better, but I'm the same way. Like, if I'm going to pay for meat, it's usually gonna be a nice salmon, like wild caught, something like that. Special occasion thing, it's nice. Yeah. It's nice to have that flexibility. Yeah. It doesn't feel so strict. It feels like I can sustain this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's how I felt. We went to Florida for our fall break and it was like, okay, well, I'll just get the sushi. There's a little bit of crab in there and that feels fancy compared to all the things you guys are getting, but it's great. So anyway, but now I've shifted to vegetarian sushi and I love it. It's so yummy. I'm just really happy. I feel like I'm finding new foods that I didn't normally eat, which has been kind of exciting because I love all the foods. So
yes, it is fun. It's fun. And that's an abundance mindset, right? Of like,
yeah,
look what you're gaining and not what you're just losing, and I'm trying more foods. I'm enjoying more flavors. I feel like I was just eating chicken, ground turkey, ground turkey, like just, that was my dinners. And now I'm eating Indian food. I'm eating Thai food. I'm eating, like eating such a variety of foods that I never, ever would have tried if it weren't for we're switching this way.
It's awesome. I love it. I think it's so good. And I think it's so fun for families to learn how to eat all different things too, and not be scared of different flavors. And my kids are pretty good about eating their vegetables and eating things from different cultures, but they're not quite ready to give up all their other things, which is fine. So that was one thing that I was going to ask you is, how do we move our families more towards plant-based eating? They don't have to go, all in if that's not something my husband is going to want to do, but he supports me doing it. Right. So how do we kind of do that? So it's a little bit, I mean, your whole family went plant-based basically, right?
For the most part. Yeah. For the most part. And I let them choose, like if we go out to eat, they can choose whatever. So we're not, we're not super strict that way, but basically just slowly, like start with the recipes they already love, like spaghetti, like we maybe take out the meat, add lentils, or just add beans to the meat. Like, okay. So if you're making tacos, instead of just going straight for the bean burritos or bean tacos, then you could do half ground beef, just start adding in the vegetables, adding them in more and more. And it's amazing. Like a lot of people are like, oh, my kids don't eat a lot of vegetables, but then add more fruit, because fruit has the same phytochemicals, the same nutrients. Like there's nothing wrong with fruit. And so add more fruit. I try to get to that 5 a day, because only 1 in 10 Americans and only 1 in 10 kids are eating just 5 fruits and vegetables a day. And even if they're eating 5 apples a day, that's better than 1 apple, so it's what it is, and just increase what they will eat, and add more of that, because that's what's going to give them the fiber that they need. And the fiber will strengthen their gut, will help them to, prevent diseases overall. Like fiber is really, really a nutrient that we all should be focusing more on. We're so focused on protein, and while we have enough protein generally in our society, we don't have enough fiber. And so if we can just add that in slowly, just think of what can I add to this? What you're having a dinner, and anytime I cut up apples, anytime I cut up something else, like they'll eat it, right? If it's there in front of their face, preload on veggies is a big thing too. So while I'm cooking dinner, I intentionally try to cook the vegetable first and put it out on the counter and let my kids snack on it. Just because they'll eat more of the vegetables.
Oh, if it's out when they're hungry, they'll eat it. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, pre-gaming on vegetables is a great way. Adding more beans. And again, like you mentioned, your gut kind of had a problem. The slower you can add these in, the better. And so I don't tell everyone to just switch overnight. Like just, if you struggle with beans, then just eat 5 beans a day. I bet you won't struggle with 5 beans a day. And then a little more, Yeah. So just getting those foods in any way. And a lot of kids need like 15 times, like they need to see it like 15 times before some will even try it. So they just need that constant exposure, and just having it. Don't feel like a failure if they didn't eat it, because you win just by putting it out there. That's all you need to do, is just let it be accessible to them. And then it's their choice from there. But in order for you to win, it's just to put it out as an option. And so that's, have that mindset, just put it out as an option. And luckily plant foods are a lot less expensive. So if they don't eat it, it's okay.
It's just fine. And especially right now when the food prices have gone way up. So it really is nice to have some more options of cutting your budget. Meat's a really easy one, because I feel like the meat is what's gone up the most recently. Right. So that's a great one. I'm really happy I've started buying more things like
chicken sausage and different things like that. So my family can eat it on the side as their meat. And then I don't even have to. Anyway, that's been an easier way for me to kind of let them have their meat and then I don't have to worry about it.
Have it as a side dish. That's a really good tip too. Like cook a plant-based meal, like start experimenting with plant-based meals and then just cook some grilled chicken on the side, like whatever's easy. So you're not cooking 2 meals.
Because we love like sheet pan meals where you cut up all the veggies and then throw it on brown rice or wild rice or white rice or pasta or whatever you want to throw it on, or even sometimes whole wheat bread if you want to like sop it up. Anyway, so that was an easy one for me because I just moved the sausage over to their little side, or I give it to them or whatever. And we eat that at least once or twice a week or something like that. And so that was a really easy one for us. But I'm kind of wondering, what are some snacks that you have? Because that's where I get stuck when I just need something quick. Besides hummus.
Right.
I love hummus.
I know, right? I will do, so I'll season chickpeas, like, and I'll grill them kind of like when you're grilling those vegetables. So I'll do like cumin, a little bit of seasoned salt or anything, make them taste yummy, put them in the oven, grill those up, and then you can have them as like a grab and go. So that's like a salty snack. We do a lot of so for salty, we do a lot of air pop popcorn. And I love to spray I really like apple cider vinegar. So instead of like a butter, I'll do apple cider vinegar with some nutritional yeast. I know it sounds weird, but I think it tastes really good.
No, I want to try that.
So then it's really, it's like the thing that makes popcorn unhealthy is what you're adding to it. And so I'll do olive oil for my kids because I think that's just fine for my kids. But for me, I want to be able to eat a lot without all of the added calories. And that's how I can keep the calories lower, is just by doing apple cider vinegar instead for that little tang. And then nuts, like always having, some nuts or something in my bag. We really like Lara bars too. Like I always am buying Lara bars to have on hand, just because they're just dates and nuts. And so it's easy. My kids usually have one, once a day if we're out about at the park. And then fruit. Every time I grab a snack, it's like, okay, what fruit or vegetable can I have? And usually like a handful of nuts or something else that will pair it with, right? So a little bit of protein, whether it's like peanut butter and apples, sometimes I'll do that to keep me fuller a little bit longer. But really I try to avoid a lot of the processed foods, but sometimes I'll buy like dried mangoes or some dried fruit to have where you can just keep it in your car, like something that you can have longer.
Yes. Road trips. I felt like the dried apricots and pecans were kind of saving me, just because it was something that I didn't have to keep cold and I didn't have to worry about it rotting when it was hot. And that I didn't realize that Lara bars were just dates. Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I've been eating a lot of dates too. I've been throwing them in my oatmeal and everything. Yes. Like, man, dates are great. I never realized how great dates were.
Dates, and especially a date with a little bit of peanut butter. I'm like, it's like a cookie. So when I have
my goodness.
I'll do a date. I'll slap some peanut butter. You can even put some chocolate chips on top. And I'm like, it's just like I ate a cookie. It's so good.
We have a Jerusalem dinner right before Easter every year, and we try to eat foods from the Mediterranean and from the Middle East. And so we always have dates, and my kids always throw the biggest fit because I say they look like cockroaches in the bowl. I'm like, it's fine. So they don't even know. I've been sneaking it in all kinds of things lately. When they're chopped up, they don't notice them, but
right.
I'll have to eat my cockroach peanut butter with chocolate chips on it and see what they say.
It's good. They won't complain. My kids love it. And sometimes I'll do like coconut shreds too on top of it.
Oh yeah. See, so this is good. This is good. This is making me more excited. So I love that. Okay. One thing I learned from you is the order of your food. And this kind of scared me at first because talk about this a little bit. Because at first I thought there's no way I can do this. I can't do this for breakfast. But it makes my day so much better when I do. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So as you probably are aware, blood sugar, like your blood sugar is all the rage right now. Trying to manage your blood sugar levels. People are starting to understand how, insulin plays a role and insulin resistance plays a role in a lot of diseases. The problem is that we look at just the symptoms, right, of blood sugar, and we're not looking at the underlying cause and the underlying issue. So for example, someone could control their blood sugar levels by eating sausage and bacon for breakfast every day. However, over time, since, those are processed meats, those can put you at a higher risk of cancer. So while, yes, it can keep your blood sugar levels stable, over time, it's actually putting you at a higher risk of chronic disease. So how can you manage your blood sugar levels, but decrease your risk of chronic disease, increase your longevity? And that is by eating foods in a certain order. So if you think about your kitchen sink and you think about, washing your dishes, when you're washing dishes and there's a little bit of bread or even potatoes, it kind of just will get soaked in with the water and go straight down the sink. But if you're washing out some vegetables, leftover vegetables off your kid's plate, then it kind of can clog up the sink. So that's very similar in your stomach. We want to kind of clog up the stomach so that it releases everything a lot slower into your bloodstream. So how can you do that? And that's by eating some more fiber-rich foods, vegetables, right? So if you eat your vegetables first, then everything else, then it can manage those blood sugar levels. So they've even done that with if you eat a sandwich together as one versus if you eat the vegetables and then eat the sandwich, and there's been a difference in the blood sugar spikes. So I always think about it too, when we prioritize something in our life, a lot of people, if you're spiritual, you're prioritizing meditation or praying or reading your spiritual texts, and you do that usually first thing in the morning. That's kind of how you set your day off right. And it's very similar with your food. So if you want to prioritize the thing that really is most important, the thing that's going to help you live longer, that your body needs all these micronutrients in, then let's eat those foods first. And it will reward you by keeping those blood sugar levels stable and help you live longer. And it's a lot easier. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Before breakfast, when I'm thinking about it, if it's convenient, I'll grab just a couple of carrots and then I'll eat my oatmeal. Or before lunch, and this is really important if you've been fasting. So you should always, always break your fast with vegetables. Always, always. I know you want to reach for that cookie. I know you want to reach for that bread, but always break your fast with vegetables. It really makes a big difference. So you don't have that huge spike, because usually when you've been fasting for a while is where you'll get the biggest spike. And those big spikes over time can influence your health in the sense of insulin is a fat storage hormone. So when you have these bigger spikes and there's more insulin in your blood, overall, it's basically telling your body to store fat. And we don't want to do that, right? We want to keep those stable so that we can dine in on our own fat when needed. And use that storage instead.
I love that image.
Just dine in. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why you want to do that.
No, I think that is brilliant. And I really thought I'm more of a smoothie girl in the morning, or, I'll have oatmeal or something too. I just love something sweet, and it just seems something easy on my stomach for some reason. But I started having carrots and even some tomatoes or celery or whatever I kind of had around. And I realized the whole rest of the day, I eat better if I just start with that, because I'm thinking about it first thing in the morning, and it's it sparks this desire. Oh, I did such a good job. I ate my vegetables. I want to keep this up today, Yes. So I just think, from one person who did not think I could do it and thought this is crazy, it really is great. I really think it's amazing. And I was really surprised. That was something that really surprised me, that made a big difference for me. So,
and I like that you don't have to be perfect. So just know, just having that piece of information, it's okay. Now, whenever I break my fast, I will always eat vegetables. I just that one information takes 2 seconds, but it doesn't mean that every day religiously I'm doing it before every meal.
Yeah.
But it's something that when it's convenient and when I can, I do. And I notice the benefits, right?
Well, I just think of, because we fast once a month in our church, we try to fast every Sunday, or not every Sunday, one Sunday a month. Not kids. We're not eating any Sunday. No, no, right. But I find that usually how we've broken that in the past is we have some big heavy meal, right? Or we have a really sugary breakfast. Let's have crepes with Nutella. And we have the strawberries and all of that really good stuff too, but I always feel so sick after right. we eat that. And it makes so much more sense when you explain it how you did, about how you just got to clog that up and let things go slow. Because here we've had nothing and now we're just going to shove all this sugar and this stuff in, and
woo.
Yeah, it's like you just all crash. We're all on the couch just ready for naps afterwards,
Right.
Crazy.
Because all of your energy, and that's what happens a lot of times after we eat, all the energy is just going, to deal with that huge spike. And so in order to have more energy, to decrease those 3 p.m., needs for naps, to eat in that way will help a lot.
Love that. Oh, so good. Okay. So this was one other thing that I really loved was it goes with your abundance mindset. You had these goals for us to count. I say us because it's like me and whoever else was listening. I don't even know who else was, but these goals for us to count how many plants that we can eat. And that got me really excited at first because I thought, okay, this is something that makes me feel excited, like I'm not starving myself, or I don't know. It was a fun challenge, Okay. Oh, I can throw flaxseed in there and chia seed and all these things that I wouldn't normally throw in my oatmeal, but it's more plants. So, let's put some pecans in there and anyway, will you talk about that a little bit? Because that felt, if nothing else, that kind of was a good jump start for me because I was getting filled up on counting all my plants that I was eating.
Right. Yeah, no, it's great. Well, and the reason why it's important to do is because the gut microbiome. Now, back in the day, we didn't know a lot about the gut microbiome. In fact, I like to compare it to like about 200 years ago when you would look up in the sky, we saw that there were stars and we did have some telescopes, but we didn't have the technology back then to be able to see the galaxies, to be able to see how vast it is. And it's the same thing with the technology with our gut microbiome. It wasn't until 2006 that we really even started to develop the technology to see all of these little microbes that are in our gut and how they play a significant role in our health. So now we know that there's different gut microbes that like different foods. They're picky eaters. And so some love broccoli, some love flaxseed, some love, all these different plants. And it's like a forest, right? And if you think of a thriving forest, like the rainforest, there's lots of snakes and there's insects and there's all these other things that make that ecosystem. It's the same thing in your gut microbiome. You want to be able to feed all of these microbes their foods and so that it can thrive. We don't want to just be eating the same thing over and over because you're only feeding a certain type of gut microbe. And so as you're eating that variety, they found, in fact, they did the biggest study on the gut microbiome was called the American Gut Project. And they found that those who ate a variety of 30 different plants, and again, plants, as you're mentioning, are not just fruits and vegetables, but they're fruits.
Right. Because at first you think just fruits and vegetables, you forget about, at least for me, I forget about the grains and the legumes and the nuts. Yeah.
Yes, those are all plants, and the fiber from those foods feed different microbes. So in the American Gut Project, they found that those who are eating a variety of 30 different plants every week have the healthiest microbiome. So whether or not they ate cheese or meat or anything else, it was really about the variety of plants they were eating. And so making sure that you're getting that variety is going to set your gut up for success. And a healthy gut microbiome, 80 to 90% of our immune system is housed in our gut. And so for that reason, let's keep it strong. Let's feed those gut microbes their favorite foods. Let's mix it up and create a thriving ecosystem inside of us.
Love it. It's just so good. Tell everybody how we can find you so they can get all of this good stuff. I'm a huge fan of your newsletter, and so I want them all to subscribe to that. But let's tell them where they can find you, and we can.
So I'm on Instagram at PlantWise. So my company is called PlantWise, WHYS. Because I like to teach the why behind eating plant-based. After I was eating this way for a long time and I saw the benefits happen to my family, I wanted to stand on the rooftops and just scream it out to the world, like, this is amazing. And so I found that luckily you can do that nowadays with Instagram. But I also have a YouTube channel where I show you how to cook these meals too, because sometimes you just need that, like, this is how you do it. These are some recipes. It's just helpful. So I'm on YouTube at PlantWise. And then we also send out that weekly newsletter. So make sure to come to my website, sign up for our weekly newsletter because I give out a free recipe every week. And we talk about the benefits of different plants every week. So it's just fun to read.
I love it. It's so fun to read. Well, and it's so good because I've always been a huge fan of if you're eating food at the dinner table and they really don't want to eat it. Like, for example, last night it was mushrooms that my daughter didn't want to eat her mushrooms. And I'm like, okay, let's pull up Google and let's find out why your body needs mushrooms, and she didn't roll her eyes. But once we read all those things, it was like, this is why we need this. So eat 1 or 2, just try it, get used to these mushrooms. I know, it's a weird texture. It is. Some kids really hate mushrooms, and I understand that, but let's get used to it, because look at all these good things they can do. So, and I love that you do that with different things in your newsletter, like your fall one that had the benefits of nutmeg, because there's so much nutmeg that I like, oh my gosh, I don't even think of nutmeg as a plant, because I just think of it as a seasoning, so anyway, it's been really fun so I am a huge fan. So I love it. So good. So good.
Thank you.
Was there anything else that you wanted to share?
Just mostly by small and simple things, big things come to pass. That after this is not the diet where you want to lose 8 pounds in a month. Like maybe it will happen.
And it might happen. Yeah. I have lost some weight from it, and it's not like I've been trying. It's just been naturally coming off, and that's not my main aim. I have some other health things that I'm working for, but I mean, it'd be great, right? Like, I'm not going to be sad about it or anything, but
right. This is the long game. This is you make these small, simple tweaks, and that's a side effect, because I believe as you're eating a diet that's the best for your body, that will naturally happen if that's where your body wants to go. But in general, this is for eating for longevity. This is the long game we're playing. It's not going to be some fast overnight transition and change, right? It's just eating the foods that your body needs, getting all those micronutrients. It's not just about counting macros. We need those micronutrients. Those micronutrients will sustain us and help prevent disease. As I'm seeing more and more people I know eating, getting cancer and getting all of these other diseases, it's just, I feel like the world needs to know that what you eat matters. And eating meat sparingly really can be powerful and beneficial for your body. And I feel like that's been key, and seeing the benefits from that. I want to let everyone know that just try it out, just try it. Start with what only, start with maybe your breakfast, make your breakfast plant-based, and then try to eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. And then after that, maybe let's attack one dinner a week. We could do meatless Monday, then slowly ease into it.
That's such a good tip. I love that. And then you have this awesome mini course coming out in January. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I feel like I was lucky and I learned a lot from you at that summit that I watched, but I'm sure our listeners would love to hear more about what you can offer with that.
Yes. So right now I currently have a program where I work with people who are like me, like who have had a significant other or themselves gone through a major health event. And so we have it's a VIP level, like we hold your hand, for someone who has a serious case of IBS or something very significant. But it's a large investment, right? And I found that there's a lot more people like you who don't necessarily have this major health event, but they would like more support and assistance. And so starting January, we're having a membership where you can join for just $37 a month. And I give you, okay, this is step 1. This is what you need to do. And then we have a Q&A session. And then, you get the support you need without changing your lifestyle upside down. It's just a slow transition. You feel called to eat this way a little bit more, whether it's for personal reasons, for environmental reasons, for health reasons, spiritual reasons. You feel like this is where you need to go. And so starting in January, we want to spread our message to more people. And in order to do that, we need kind of a more affordable option. So watch out for that, because it's going to be amazing, where we'll hold your hand every step of the way. It's not, again, an overnight, join our program and you'll lose 20 pounds, but then you'll gain it back. And
this is not a diet program.
Right. This is a lifestyle change. This is something that you can see yourself eating this way when you're 80 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're going to be living to your 90s and hundreds if you are eating this way.
Love that. That's the best benefit. Okay. Do you have just a few minutes for the 3 helpful and happy questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I love to tie this in, because at Helping of Happiness, we love to talk about family recipes, which this is a really fun way to kind of bring that into there. We love to talk about family travel, and then we talk about home hacks. And then our website also houses our podcast. So I love to ask you these 3 questions because they have to do with all of these things that we love to talk about. So the first one is, and since we're talking food, this is kind of a fun question, is what's your favorite food or meal?
I loved my mom's lasagna growing up. Like it was amazing. It was delicious. We always got really excited. It's the typical, but she just made it like the right way. I don't know how it was.
I know. That's
Right?
my husband with his mom's lasagna. He loves his mom's lasagna.
Not funny. But what's interesting is I now make a plant-based lasagna soup, and it's everyone's favorite. And in fact, I polled the people who are currently in my program, like, hey guys, I would love to know what's your favorite out of all of my meals, because we have all these meal plans. And I'm like, out of all the meals, what's everyone's favorite? And it was the lasagna soup. Like everyone, I'm like, okay, like this is it. So it's a really good one. It's tasty. You won't miss the cheese. You won't miss the meat. It tastes just as good, just as delicious. So it's always fun when you can find a replacement to those foods that you love. It's not the same thing, but I would say.
And I think that's another thing to remember too, is like my kids love these halal bowls from Plum Street Collective. I don't know if you ever follow her. She has some really fun recipes too, but it's like this just great bowl with this turmeric rice and this chicken that's really good. And there's a fun dill sauce. And I was trying to figure out, how can I like partake in this meal, but not eat this? So chicken. Right. So I just did all the seasonings that I would have thrown on that, and I put them on lentils and cauliflower, and it was actually really good. So I haven't done a lot of lentil cooking, so I was really excited that they cooked as fast as they did, because I was expecting them to take as long as beans, and they didn't. And so that was really good. But anyway, it was not halal bowls. It was not the same thing, but it was halal seasoning, and it felt like I was eating something Mediterranean, or Middle Eastern, I should say, Middle Eastern with my family. And it was great. And it would actually make a really good soup. So I probably need to like tweak it a little bit, but anyway, I think I'm all about, let's find new things that you like. It's not going to be mac and cheese is not going to be something that you're going to be making, right? It's just not. And that's okay, because there's other lasagna soup. It's probably tastier than mac and cheese anyway. So
yes, it's good. It's a good one.
Okay. Love that. All right. Sorry. That was a tangent for me. Okay. So let's talk about travel. Do you have a favorite trip or a dream vacation?
So on our 10-year anniversary, my husband and I did a cruise. He really likes cruises because he doesn't have to think about it, and you just show up at different places. And so it was fun. We went to Rome, we went to Italy, we went to France. Yeah, it was wonderful. And I'd go back. It was just nice. We like actually got the balcony. I mean, it was our 10-year anniversary. So we like paid the nice room, and it was just great. It was the longest I'd been without my kids in years. And so it was just nice. It was nice to like remember that we like each other again.
Yes. You're like, wait, a conversation that's not interrupted 50 times.
Right. That's been a while. Now we have our 15-year anniversary coming up, but we're not going alone. But still, we are gonna go on another cruise, but with the family, because they're fun. For my husband, I like anything. I love to travel, but he doesn't have to think about or plan it, or like he actually gets a break. So it's good.
No, it's nice too that you don't have to do the cooking, or you don't have to do the cleaning. You just, and it's kind of nice. I've never done Europe on a cruise, but that would be awesome to not have to haul your luggage everywhere. That was always the trick when we were in Europe this spring. It was like, how do we time our luggage with when we can get in our Airbnb next, and our different, so that would be really nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put that on my list. Awesome. Okay, last one. Do you have a homemaking hack for us? I feel like so many things you've told us have been hacks, but
I know this has nothing to do with food. It's actually, so I wash my face with some like the cleanest face wipes, but I'm a face wipe person. I just like, ever since they invented those, I love them. And when I wash my face at night, like there's a bunch of makeup, so I usually throw it away. But in the morning when I wash it, like they're still pretty clean. And so I'll save them, and I won't let myself throw them away unless I've like wiped down the toilet with it, wiped down the wall, like wiped down something. So it kind of forces me to like clean just a little something before I throw it away. And they're actually really good at getting like pencil marks off the wall and like other things off the wall. So yeah, I know I found all these like things I can use them on, like, oh, I can just wipe that off with my face wipe.
That's amazing. What brand is this? This is great.
It's like just a Walmart brand. I'm trying to think what it's the one that has exfoliating, like that makes it a little.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I've wiped off things off of the wall many times. I'm like, I don't need a magic eraser. I have my face wiped.
I could just wash my face and then I'll just wash the wall. It'll be great.
Right.
Oh, no, that's brilliant though. Cause there's always those little spots in the sink that would be really easy to just get really quick.
Just get it. I mean, I feel bad that it's kind of like a wasteful it's like such an American thing, right? Like, oh, let's just wipe our face once instead of growing up, like using the wash rag like we used to, but it comes in handy. It's really nice when you can just wipe down other things and throw it away.
Well, and that probably goes really great with some of our traveling, right? That would be a really easy travel hack when you don't have to pack all those liquids and
yes
that you might be using.
Totally, 100%.
Awesome. Well, Ali, this has been such a treat for me, and I'm even more excited on because I've been a little slumpy in my plant-based journey the last few days. Like, oh, what am I going to eat? So now I'm really excited to get back. Good. The excitement for all of it. So
yes, it's
doable. Thank you again. So Plantwise on Instagram, YouTube, and plantwise.com for your website. Okay. Sounds so good.
Thank you.
All right, Lindy, we got our spoonful of spirit going today, and we're talking about Daniel in the Lion's Den. One of my favorite stories. I just love Daniel. I wanted to name one of my kids Daniel. It never made it to the list.
Yeah.
No one quite got there.
Good old Daniel. Yes, Daniel in the Lion's Den. Another story, another Old Testament story that I knew very little about. For instance, I didn't know that Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were basically like friends.
Buddies. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How did I miss that? All these years. You know, you have these two incredible stories about them surviving and death,
crazy
really
things. Yeah.
Being saved from certain death, and I didn't know that they were like buddies. They were hanging out together.
Love that group. I want to meet these boys. They just seem like they're so strong. You know, at the very beginning of Daniel, when they first are pulling Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego out of Jerusalem and bringing them to Babylon, they bring them to the king's house because they're some of the finest specimens that they want to come and teach them the ways of the Babylonians. And so they're trying to feed them all the king's meat, and Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are like, sorry to the head guy, we can't eat this. This is not in our food code. This is not good for us. We just want our pulse. We just want, it's like their little lentils and grain, you know, nothing super exciting, and water instead of the wine and the meat. And the guy's like, if you guys get sick from not eating this other food, then I am going to get killed. You know, so he was really worried about giving them their food, but he let them do it for 10 days, and they ended up being even healthier than anybody else that was there, and they were smarter and everything else. So I love that they have like these little experiences, you know, and then we, you know, the fiery furnace story, and then now we're going to talk about Daniel in the Lion's Den. So they're just kind of a fun little group.
Experts say, I don't know, that they were like teenagers.
Yeah.
Especially
at the point when they first just brought into the Babylonian palace, you know.
The
Lion's Den, he was maybe a little bit older because it was a little later in his life, but crazy.
Yeah, and a little background on Daniel is Jerusalem was conquered by Babylon, and then, like you said, they were pulling some of these young kids and bringing them to Babylon to work and to basically be taught in the ways of Babylonia, and to work in the king's house. It's so to be torn from your family when you're like 12, 13, 14.
I can't even imagine. And then being so strong to stand up to them when you're there.
And then to stand up to the king and the king's leader, you know, like his household leaders or whatever. And then being like, no, I'm not. Thank you for the food. And
thanks
also,
for this. I can't eat this stuff.
Can I just eat this over here? So brave. So then you have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and their story of faith, of worshiping. Basically, they
wouldn't worship
they
the
wouldn't
king's
worship
idols.
the idols.
So
Right.
then they get thrown in the fire.
Yeah. And it's Nebuchadnezzar. So Daniel actually goes through 3 different kings. I didn't know. That was something that I learned too. So Nebuchadnezzar was first, and he loved Daniel. And then his son served after him, and he loved Daniel. And then that the son was overthrown by
Darius or Darius. Yeah.
But he was a kin. Was he a cousin or something? I can't remember.
I can't remember the relation.
But so then Darius was the king when Daniel's story, the lion's den story comes about, and he loved Daniel. Like, Daniel was an incredible person for all of these kings to be like, yeah, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
And because he was the favorite, then these other Babylonian men were
These
jealous
jealousies.
of him, and convinced King Darius to make this ridiculous rule that you couldn't worship the God of Israel or anybody but the Babylonian idols and things. So Darius does, and doesn't realize that they're doing it to trap Daniel. And so then when he finds out, he was so sad. In fact, so then he's like, well, we have to do it because I decreed it. So I can't remember if he prayed, but he was up all night.
Yeah.
Worried about him. And first thing in the morning, he ran to the lion's den to see what had happened, and then to find Daniel unharmed.
And then those guys got fed to the lions that made the law.
It sounds like a good
kind of like Haman and Esther, where he was hung in the gallows, but he was gonna have Mordecai hung in. They were like, well,
yeah,
got yourself all set up.
One thing that I liked from the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story is when they were confronted, when they wouldn't worship the idol. I love what they said. In fact, there's a talk. It's in the Come Follow Me lesson. They gave a couple conference talks, and one of them is, but if not. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they are being confronted, and they say, we will only worship our God. And then they said, then you're going to die. And they said, well, our God will save us, but if not, we will still worship him. And I love that. And I hadn't, that was something that in my reading just kind of glazed over. But then when I read that conference talk that was suggested in the Come Follow Me lesson, it was so powerful, because it was, you know what, like, I believe that I will be blessed, but if not, I still choose. Yeah. I'd still choose God. I still choose the Savior. And even if what I think is the blessing doesn't happen, he will still take care of me, basically. So I love that. And in the conference talk, he goes through a couple of different modern day examples. Like, I believe that I will marry the person of my dreams and have a family, but if not, I still choose to marry, to believe and all of these things. And I just think of the trials that are so real right now. And if we can have that expectation of, like, I believe that there's blessings, but if I don't get blessed in the way that I think I should be, I still believe, I will still follow. Anyway, so I love that lesson. Way more powerful if you read the conference talk or listen to it. So go do that.
Back and read that. That's wonderful.
That was a fun one.
All right, thanks so much for being with us today. So fun to have Ali here from PlantWise and also Lindy here from Enoch Studies. So go and look at those show notes, get all of those plant-based recipes, and if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, make sure that you do that too. That link is also in the show notes. That gives you the password to our freebie resource library, where you're going to find tons and tons of recipes and all of our free printables and different guides that we have. And every week, let's be honest, it's usually every month, I'll send out an email with podcast notes and with other really fun things that we have going on. So go see us at Helping of Happiness.